Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Oladapo and Dr. Nwogu for joining us really early. I will do a quick introduction before I hand this over to the amazing Obakam and Asenite to take this away. But just to give you a bit of context as to what this project is about and sort of what we're trying to achieve and what we've done so far as a team. So we started the Rivers 2050 Vision Project in February. Um, and it was driven by I'll say it's a long-time realization that River State hasn't had a development vision for the past 50 years. The last time we had a development vision was when we had a 20-year-old or 20-something-year-old governor, our first military governor, who basically sort of like set out the foundations for what our state now is post the Civil War, and we've done a mapping of the next 25 years to see what are some of the predictions, the trends, analysis, and stuff that have been put out by various data sources, whether it's like international organizations like the UN and various NASA and co. And looked at what trends basically would affect us more, whether it's as relates to population, the fact that with our current growth rates, there'll be 4 million extra people added to our population over the next 10 years, or the fact that coastal communities are at risk. Can you guys hear me? Everyone looks
Yeah.
frozen. Okay, cool. Or the fact that coastal communities are at risk of being washed away due to sea level rise and all the challenges that we've been seeing with flooding. The fact that most of the international big players are going to be moving away from oil over the next decade, right? The fact that there's a green energy movement and stuff like that, and being a hydrocarbon economy, there's an urgent need for the state to diversify. So we've put all of these things together and we've said, how can the state prepare for the future better, and what role can various partners basically play to sort of like make that come to pass? So the four sort of like urgent, based on our analysis so far, urgent needs for the states are what we call the 4 E's: education, employment, energy, and economic diversification are sort of like the quick urgent things that we need to do. There was a time when the state was sort of like leading the country in human capital development and education, but for the past decade we had slipped away. Most of the schools that were built are now overgrown by weeds and minor shrubs and forests and stuff like that. And there's a huge need to ensure that we're educating the next generation. River State has the third highest unemployment rates in the country after Abuja and Abia states. That doesn't make any sense for a state with an industrial complex and sort of like the foundations that were built with the industrial area and stuff like that. And energy, we have rivers and ocean breeze and sun and natural gas, and there's no need why River State should not have 24 hours of electricity. So these are some of the things that we've been discussing since February, bringing together several experts to sort of like discuss all of these things and see how we can find solutions to them. We've also found that if you look at the sort of like number of people living in multidimensional poverty, River State also sadly ranks really high in Nigeria. Currently, the number is at 4.4 million people out of our projected 9 million population living in multidimensional poverty. So all of these things all trickle down to education, public leadership, the need for a lot more better governance. And I'm happy that we have like two really good corporate governance experts to be able to discuss how education can help us, and human capital development can help us like surmount this. So the 4 ways we've structured the project is being led by Youth Task Force. So people like Obakam, Asenite, over 100 of us from across the 23 local government areas of River State. We've started a statewide survey about 4 or 5 months ago that has been ongoing, seeking data from people across the 23 local government areas on what they think their urgent needs are, their priorities, based on the problems in their own local government areas. We've been hosting focus group discussions or discussions like this on various topics like sports and culture and tourism. Today we're talking education. We'll discuss healthcare as well. So across 15 focus areas, we've been having these discussions, and then we've been also hosting key informal interviews with so experts from, we had the folks from the government in Qatar come speak to us because of how quite similar we are to Qatar and how they've been able to, host the national vision for since 2008 that has really transformed their country. And we've also reached out to like states, former state governors, the current state governor and stuff to also be able to come on to speak to us and discuss how this vision can be co-created. All that information is up on our YouTube. We've recorded all of the sessions just as we're recording today's session. And we have all that info up on our YouTube as well as the website as well. We hope that all the information we get from these conversations will go into the Rivers 2050 Vision book, which will be launched next year, hopefully in Q2 next year. The survey, everything put together, these discussions with all of the insights from all these experts, including the experts we have today, will go into this book, and we hope it becomes a citizen manifesto, something that we can use to hold our leaders accountable for the long term and ensure that the conversations that will emanate for the 2027 elections will be drawn from the needs that the people have raised in the Rivers 2050 vision book. So I'll just go straight ahead for the sake of those who will be watching this to introduce our guests for today's conversation. Today we'll be discussing the future of education in Rivers State, the role of private sector, because we think that it's quite key that the private sector is, that's the engine for development everywhere in the world. It's the private sector that develops the economy. So what role can that sector play in helping Rivers State build our education system? Because it does look like our public sector has really failed woefully in doing that. So first we have Dr. Alfred Oladapo. I don't know if Dr. Alfred remembers, but so many years ago when I was interning at Nigeria Info, a long time ago, I'm sure this is almost like 13, 12 years ago, I used to always run into him when he would come to speak and motivate everyone in the studio and, speak on air. So it's such a pleasure and a privilege that we were able to get your time this evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. He's a leadership expert. He's a business consultant. He's so many things, right? He's gained global recognition for his work in leadership development, organizational growth, cultural transformation, to mention a few. He's the EVP for Africa at iLeadAfrica Leadership Academy, which is a consortium of Harvard-trained experts in human and institutional capacity development. And this consortium works to empower leaders and organizations with competencies for improving performance. He has over 25 years of quality experience, has created over 32 programs to enhance active employee engagement. He's a doctoral fellow of the Chartered Institute of Human Resources Management, a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, and the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, to mention a few, because it's a much more longer value. But thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We really appreciate you this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, sir. We also have Dr. Ikechi Nwogu. Sir Ikechi is an international best-selling author, highly sought-after keynote and motivational speaker, as a futurist, which makes it really perfect for him to join us for this conversation. And he's a strategic advancement advisor to governments, organizations, people, and businesses. He's a fellow of the Mentoring and Career Development Institute and also a member of the Institute of Directors. He co-founded Cinfores Limited, a tech resource and educational consultancy company, and is currently sitting in the organization as Director of Administration. He's also president of the Ant Hill Congress, which is a platform designed for reordering leadership and creative governance perspectives to inspire productivity across nations and boost the prosperity index of the people, which I know that's something that Rivers State needs really, really, really deeply. He's an alumnus of the University of Port Harcourt, Ambrose Ali University, Rivers State University, and the National Open University. Thank you so much, Dr. Nwogu, for joining us. We really appreciate it. So I'll hand over now to our moderator, Obakam, and our rapporteur for today, Asenite, to take this away.
All right, thank you so much, Senator.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Ebenezer. Welcome once again, Mr. Alfred and Mr. Ikechi. It's definitely a pleasure to meet you. I don't think I've ever met Mr. Ikechi, but I think I have seen Mr. Alfred on Facebook. We're connected, and I think we go way, way back. I'm not sure where, but I think we go way, way back. It's a pleasure to connect with you again. So I'm going to be asking our first question really. Um, so education in Rivers State seems to have had its ups and its down moments. But holistically, as a state, how would you say we are fared in terms of human capital development on a scale of 1 to 10, and why? I think I will just popcorn it to Mr. Alfred. Yeah, since you're in the human capital development space, and then after you, Mr. Ikechi can go.
Thank you very much, and nice to meet everyone.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for having me.
Thank you.
Well, I've lived here for quite a while now. I think I moved to Port Harcourt in 1998, so I'm almost an Nigerian now. I should be given this Nigerian title.
Okay.
What I've seen so far, working across schools, Rivers, Lagos, Abuja, and some other places, is human capital development has virtually taken a backseat in our educational system. I think what has really taken our attention very much, more like certificates, titles, positions, and sometimes, the kind of wealth you control in the community or, within your locality. Because many times what defines leadership in our own context, and not just Nigeria or River State, but across Africa that I do a lot of work, it's we think in terms of title, we think in terms of certificate, and then we think in terms of positions. And those are, things that have almost zero to do with type, with leadership. Leadership is just a function of, competencies that anybody can acquire, can acquire in order to be useful to the people and the community. So that's the first thing, we need to set in place. But coming to River State, I think over the years, our idea of leadership, many times among the young people that I relate with and a group that I mentor majorly is that, they want to get to a particular position. They want to have a particular title, or they want to go to a school and have certain certificates because that's how they get recognition. Well, leadership is not about recognition, it's about service. And until we probably begin to drill that down, right from primary school to secondary school to university, we'll likely, be getting it continuously wrong. I've advocated over time that one of the things that need to be included in the syllabus leadership development. And I may be able to say leadership development is not a program, it's not an event, it's not a conference, it's not a workshop. Someone can have all the certificates, having attended a particular workshop, and they still don't understand what leadership is. Now, the organization that I work with, we all went to Harvard University, and then we started thinking, what do we do to help Africa in terms of education and in terms of leadership? That's how we started, iLeadAfrica Leadership Academy, basically. And what we try to do here, because we did a lot of research, most leadership programs, majorly, they offer you what we call certificate of completion, which shows that where you completed a syllabus, it is syllabus driven. You didn't show that you learned anything. Or certificate of attendance, which means that, you showed up, and probably you had your name on the register. And then the third one would be certificate of participation, where you made one or two contributions. We have investigated extensively that, that will not help any leadership development, in Africa at all, or even any part of the world. So we crafted and redesigned the concept of leadership development and training and human capacity development and organizational dynamics to get more into competencies. So in our academy, for example, we don't offer any of those certificate of participation, attendance, completion. No, we deal more with certificate of competency because then we can beat our chest down. I haven't gone through here. You're qualified to lead anywhere in the world. And that is not something that, is done in one program. It's not something that is done overnight. Robert Banks, in one of his books said, you cannot microwave leaders. You don't produce leaders on a mass scale. We produce leaders one at a time. One of the schools I work with in Port Harcourt, before again, I got into some other things, was when they were electing their prefects. I think that's what they call them, prefects, for secondary school to do, all those kind of stuff. Now, because I was consulting for that school, a major thing that I put in the curriculum, I don't know if they still do it because it was strange at that time, was that we need to give these people, some level of leadership training. And one of the things I heard is that, no, they know what to do. They have been seeing other people doing it. Now, I think that's part of the fundamental problem. That we simply assume that people, like every facet of our growth and development, people assume that you can be a president, you've been seeing other people lead. We just assume things, and that becomes very dangerous. What did we do at that time was to ensure that crafted a leadership development program at their own level, and it worked quite well. And of course, we put that at their level they need what we call a lot of reward system. So, people want something like, 100,000 naira, it was not given to them cash, but it was given towards their school fees for the next session, bankrolled by iLeadAfrica, definitely. What did that do to those people? It changed their perspective of what to lead. And I understand that thereafter that session, they had less problem in terms of bullying, they had less problem in terms of not caring, but they had more empathy flowing. Because at their level, those are the kind of things that they need, how to care for one another. If you don't understand how to do that, at such elementary, do whatever they wanted. Because the example of what they see in the society in terms of leadership is about, and might is right. So, and leadership has nothing to do with might. It just has a lot to do with your intellectual development. So my first major thing that I have been preaching over time is we need to have leadership development in the curriculum of the school, and it should not be targeted at certificates. It should not be targeted at just people attending and then going through a curriculum. No, it shouldn't be. It should be something that is just internalized, and not just in secondary school. In fact, I have written a lot about the general studies that is being done in many of our universities that probably has almost nothing to do with the future of the students. Why don't you convert into a leadership development program? So that in your first semester, you take a particular course. In the second semester, you take a particular course, and you go through these in all the 4 years or 5 years that you're in the university. So you can also have that interpersonal competencies, you can have conceptual competencies, because those are the two major things that you need to be able to function in the society.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score where we currently are now in River State with respect to this question?
I'm not too sure I'm competent enough to be able to score, because again, I haven't done a research at that kind of level. So for me to probably just stick my neck out will be, I think it's going to be extensively outrageous. But I just don't think we're doing well enough, because again, I have not seen, and maybe I'm not looking very well as well. So but I haven't really seen, and I haven't really perceived that we're doing something very deliberate in terms of raising people that will not just go through school, but there will be people that be functional in the society. There's a difference between aesthetics and functionality. In the private organization, in the private schools, for example, most of what we have, we have a lot of facilities. And most of the facilities are geared towards aesthetics. They're not geared towards functionality. They say we already look at the best chapel, the best of this, the best football field, and things like that. Well, how does that translate then to the mental development, of the people? That's a topic that for another day.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Alfred. I'm just going to popcorn it now to Dr. Ikechi. Just the same question, but I'm going to echo it again. So education in River State seems to have had its ups and downs, up and down moments. But holistically, as a state, how would you say we have fared in terms of human capital development on a scale of 1 to 10, and why? Dr. Ikechi.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Obakam.
Yes.
Good evening to Alfred, Ebenezer Weekend. I'm not sure we've met face to face, but I love to listen to you on radio. I love to listen to Dr. Alfred as well. I've listened to a lot of your conversations, and they really be awesome. Yeah. Yeah,
Nice to
so
meet you.
it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure being here with you. Now, we look at this. We look at this from dynamic perspectives. That's what I like to call deliberate education. And when we talk about the future of education in River State, we need to be certain. Like I'm a church boy, and I like to quote that highlight that scripture. The vision is for an appointed time.
Mm,
It may tarry, and write it down, make it plain, so he who sees it will run with it. I like to highlight the three tests of every vision. Okay, number one, it must be communicable in plain, clear language, no ambiguities. Okay. Number two, it should be time bound. So every vision has an expiry date. So the vision is for an appointed time. We're talking of 2050. So beyond 2050, some of those items of the vision will begin to expire. I'll be looking at maybe 2000 or something. And then anyone who sees it beyond the vision should be able to run with it. So if your vision can only be carried out by you, then it fails the test. If it's everlasting, it also fails the test. Okay. Yeah. If it is not written, if you carry it only in your heart, then it fails the test. So these three tests must pass. And so when we're talking about the future of education in River State by 2050, how intentional are we about creating systems? And over time, I've identified 7 critical systems that must be in place if we talk of winning in education, and then we'll ask ourselves, are we ready as a people to highlight these things? What have we done? Have we done them holistically? Are there uh, indices to measure grounds? You know, 5 years. So 25 years is a set of 5 years, and for every vision there should be regimes, and so the
mm,
team would want to sit back every 5 years to review. This is the big picture, and where are we? Okay, I was looking at the graph and the metrics you've provided. By 2030, this is the use of AI, the use of that, all of that. So those could be measurable assessment platforms. And then are we strict, okay, to ensuring that for education, these are the things. So we can follow through, for example, with governments, upcoming political administrations to say, look, in terms of government performance, okay, what are we doing? I hate it when people say, when there's a dichotomy between government proprietorship and private proprietorship in education. But once upon a time, they had postulated that by 2015, education will cease to exist in Nigeria because most of the assessments were carried out around government schools. Okay. And when we talk about government is the prime factor, okay, to
mm,
determining, like, for example, cutoff marks for most of the higher tertiary exams. Of recent, I was reading that they're looking at scrapping JAM. So JAM will no longer be almighty. It can be done without. But then you look at the universities, you look at the private schools, we're still decrying poor infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure is a second level because even if government had a good vision, okay, we're still suffering poor laboratories, poor laboratory apparatus, okay, poor tech centers. How many governments now? WAEC could be writing CBT based examinations from next year. How prepared are governments around? I know that the governor has set up an action committee to visit that and ensure that there are possibilities. But prior to this time, we know that the federal government was just depending on private schools. So they carried out assessments across private schools. How many computers do you have? And then, of
mm,
course, some administrations ago, we had it that the government had to revitalize and reassess private schools. Only 3,000 schools fell within the lines. And then I asked a question on radio. I said, if the public schools weren't under the same crucible with which the government was assessing the private schools, how many of them will stand? So when we talk about deliberate education, we talk about indices, we talk about highlights, we talk about efforts, we talk about transformation, we talk about the future. And so if government is not responsible for what they should be responsible for, will there still be education? If government is not deliberate about what they should be deliberate about, then what quality of education will we have? And would always suffer the spate of capital flight, where students in River State would will be better off going to the Olashore internationals, the Adeshola internationals, which is at best in River State. Otherwise, in Accra, placement and all that. Do we have data to capture, who escapes? What is the enrollment ratio? Boy child, girl child. Okay. And what are we doing about those data, those statistics? Because the statistics will help us define what could be the future. So some 5 decades ago, we had greater enrollment with boys than with girls. And we're seeing the results today. Some of those are governors today and presidents today, male driven leadership. I tell you the truth, I've got 5 children. Of all of my 5 children, I don't know if it's by coincidence, I don't know if it's peculiar to me, but we have more female enrollments than male enrollment. So it seems like there is a greater sense of edu penetration among the girls. And if we have more girls going to school, then they will either tend feminists, or otherwise somebody has to ban them for becoming president of Nigeria, because it's going to be a mass movement. And who's studying all of these behavioral patterns, all of the behavior, the patterns of education over the next 25 years or over the next 50 years? So a lot of the common indices as we see them today will change. And so what's the provision for those likelihoods? Okay, where we have female CEOs, we have female inclinations to societal leadership. Okay, and then another thing to look at is infrastructure. Okay, you go to practically every school. Yes, we're beginning to have more classrooms and all that, but what's the maintenance culture? So the government has built, and then they forget that they had a school in that area. Most of the private schools are trying. You measure that with the United Nations enrollment ratios, okay, where you have 1 to 25, one teacher to 25 pupils. Even our teachers are confused. They are overwhelmed in the public schools, because in the public schools, even the best of them all, you have a ratio of 1 to 120. And so, how many, back in the day, if you had 25 children in your class, you almost know every one of them by name and by behavioral patterns. But right now, when you have 120, you can't even move through the class and mark, those classroom exercises. You don't even know who's involved. Those at the back are just making all the noise. Okay, so we need more classrooms. We need to even sustain the ones that are existing, just to ensure that everyone is properly captured. We have shortfalls of teachers. So teachers die and we don't even know who replaces them. You have cases where one teacher serves in Port Harcourt and the same teacher serves in Buguma. So he comes here 2 3 days. We even have those cases where a teacher is working in the civil service and also has his name and titles in the placement card of a school in a chain. Okay, and no assessment. So you have multi-layer earning. Okay, and nobody's asking questions. Okay, so there's misplacement of teachers and provision of teachers, no proper teacher census, no proper training, evaluation of performances, and all that. So these are already 3 areas, okay, to highlight out of 7. Okay, and then you look at the area of resources, resource management. What resources are in use in the schools? Who's vetting them to ensure that if there's going to be a future, if River State is going to buy the future of education in the next 25 years, then we need quality resources. I mean, we have the NERDC, the National Education Research Development Council. What is the quality of books? You look through some of the books that we have, and you see that some books you get from Canada are better. So how about, placing action on all of that? It's about content, identifying with meaningful content that would drive the future, okay, and ensuring that, look, a committee is on top of this, to ensuring that the quality of the content, resources, is it tech resources? Are there software tools? I've always had this brain friend. Some of you may have heard of brain friend. Okay, brain friend initiated CBT in Nigeria, and today Jam is using CBT, computer-based testing. And so testing the student before the student. I'll tell you the truth. A lot of our students are exam driven, not knowledge driven. So when you pass the exam, you forget everything you were taught in school. And these are problems. So we have stereotypical learners, okay, who are just like Dr. Alfred said, who are just fixated on the certificate, not what the Chinese call the certificate. Okay, so they are not skilled, but they have the brandy certificates, and then when it comes to delivery, they can scarcely deliver on their intent. So you have people who study medicine and they're working in the bank. because they're not credible doctors. They know that they're not credible doctors. We've seen some of them in politics and other areas. So we need to raise children who are passionate about what they are learning and they want to learn more in the area of their passion, okay, and not even look to going abroad. Because sometimes I was sitting down with a Rivers student who used to be in Ukraine, and I'll tell you something. The lady was studying medicine up until the Ukrainian war. Then she had to come back to Nigeria. Okay. And she was in year 4, coming back to the River State University to do medicine. She wanted an automatic, transfer. And then they subjected her to a test and she couldn't pass the test. Okay. And she was disheartened. She had to be dropped to year 2. And I began to engage her. She was my little baby back in the day. I began to engage her. And she said, let me be truthful to you, sir. The quality of learning in the River State University shadows what we were doing in the Ukrainian university. I said, but how be it that these students in the Ukrainian university go on to become the inventors and the leading medical practitioners and the leaders of World Health Organization? Okay. And she explained to me the same thing with football. We have some of the most amazing footballers in the streets, but we don't have a refined structure to transition them to the JJ cultures of this world. There's so much of politics. So I think we should drop some of our politicking and get to sit down on a conversation table and make sense of what kind of future we want to have. Then beyond that, we look at, we talked of resources and pedagogy. We look at parental decisions. The quality of decisions our parents will take will determine whether your child goes to a private school or goes to a secondary, a public school, or even goes to if the parents even know what they want for their children's education. Because most times, we have parents who feel school is that place next door. They don't even assess the quality of learning. I don't know how many of our parents look through our notes when we come back from school to say, is the teacher misplacing tenses? Is he putting words where there should be a? Are they coming out right in terms of, because a lot of them speak what they call diction and elocution. They speak a lot of phoneme, but their tenses don't add up. How many of them are going to become authors? How many of them can write journals for themselves and write theses for themselves without depending on AI to do all of these things? So we need to raise children who are independent learners, okay, who are well taught. But parental decisions will really matter. Some parents won't pay school fees because they have a burial. Their mother died, their elder brother died, and I would rather use the school fees to finance the burial. Parental decisions matter a lot. Then number 6 is community and religion versus non-religious influences. So you have religion. Let me look at religious. Of course, the very famous one is Boko Haram. So when an entire religion or an entire community says book is bad, then that could also define the quality of education. When a community says we're not training girls are figures for the kitchen and the other room. Okay, we have whole communities in River State where the girl child is not encouraged to go to school. Scholarship schemes don't cover the girl child. Okay, you have to do it yourself, do it by yourself. Otherwise, stay orphaned for the rest of the life because we feel you're just going to get married at some point. Okay, and then finally, himself the student himself who would want to say, okay, every effort has been made. What am I going to do with this? Okay, the student
Yeah.
is not determined. Okay, by 2050, if the student stays laid back, if the student refuses to read, when it's time for mathematics, he jumps out of the window because there are no windows. He goes to shoot catapult, shoot lizard, and all that. Okay, the student must first say to himself, I identify with the purpose, irrespective of all of this. So even when we're defining the vision for the future, we must carry the students along. Okay, so when
Yes.
you do all of this, is this all in place? You ask
Mhm.
yourself. Then, like
Yes.
the doctor was saying, there might not be any clear indices to say this is how we can do this and all that. But I tell you the truth, there isn't any deliberate projectile, there isn't any deliberate mission by the government that defines even where we're headed. So if you ask Ebenezer what his vision is for education in River State and ask a sanitaire, I'm not sure they'll tell you the same thing. But of course, it seems like it's our thing as Nigerians. Okay, no two Nigerians have a common vision for anything. So what our assignment is here is to begin to put these things and sell the ideas to government. Government
Yes.
is
Thank you, Mr. I'm sorry, we have like so many other questions and very limited time. I don't want to
oh
preempt
really
like
okay.
yes. So um you may be also answering giving some of these answers in other questions, or when you're chipping into other speakers' point of view. As we were speaking, we had Jean Yahaya, the chief of admin or head of admin at Royal Girls Academy. Welcome, Ma. I will just popcorn it to you now. Please confirm that you
Yes,
can
so much.
hear me.
Yes, I can
All
hear
right.
you.
All right. So I think all that Dr. Ikechi has said, he said so many brilliant points. I think it's just a perfect segue to the next question. And the question really is, Royal Girls Academy, you've been shaping lives of many girls in the state for over 3 decades. What are some managerial lessons that you have learned from building the school over the past 3 decades that we can actually apply to the public sector?
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Um, Royal Girls Academy is a vision that started in 1994, October 10 to be precise, and to coincide with the International Day of the Girl Child. So we started with 12 girls, and just about a week ago, we clocked 31 years in the
Mm,
business of
mm,
raising girls. We have raised well over 1,000 girls through our school over the years, and some of the things we've done, we believe we've done right based on feedback, um, and as a school has been some of this, and I would like to share it, and I believe River State will be able to learn one or two things. A lot of problems. There are a lot of issues, and I won't say River State isn't doing well, but there is a lot of room for improvement. And for an organization that has lasted about 30 years, I believe, well, we have some things to share. One of it is the consistency in sharing our vision and our values. We are very clear, our values and our vision is very clear. And that is to raise confident, disciplined, and intelligent girls for their future leadership role. And this has been our focus. There is a gap we identified. One of the speakers talked about leadership, the leadership gap, and then the just immediate speaker, Dr. Ikechi Nwogu, mentioned something about the girl child, and the trend. It was boys, 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 and then we saw this gap well ahead, and we're feeling this, and that's why we established this focus. So the vision has been clear. Every girl that steps in right from the moment of onboarding of both staff and students, we make it clear. These are our major goals. Number one, raising confident, disciplined, and intelligent girls in preparation for her future leadership role. So parents who are interested in making sure their daughters lead in the future, girls who want to be leaders, and then even staff members who want to contribute to the future of these girls have this clearly, stated from the beginning. So vision, clear vision and vision sharing has been taught. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of every term, the first Wednesday of every term, we dedicate an hour to share our vision once again, because we believe that it's not just writing out the vision, but he who must run with this vision must first see this vision and understand it with us. Yeah, so that they may see and run with it. So they hear and they see. So that's it. And then we have a structure of accountability and feedback, a
mm,
structure of accountability and feedback. In Royal Girls Academy, we are very big on setting clear expectations. Our expectations and our KPIs are clear. Everyone's role, right from the kitchen to the gate to the hostel to the classroom, is clear. And then there's monitoring of performance. And then we encourage open feedback. As a school, we have an open system. The proprietors have an open office both at the back and in the front, so students can walk in and their opinions or their feedback, their complaints are heard. We have suggestion box for the parents, we have complaint box for the students, we have regular meetings with the students. So they are practically involved, and these are things we do intentionally to let the girls know that you're going to be leaders in future, and then you have to do this. So all these things are intentionally done, to set clear examples for the students. We encourage open feedback across all levels. Our motto is for excellence and for discipline. So accountability and feedback is one of the key areas we do not joke with, or we haven't been joking with. And then yes, we can we also would like to um, praise our parents. We have a unique set of parents who are willing to invest in their daughters, and they see themselves as stakeholders. They see themselves as stakeholders. As a matter of fact, we call them friends forever. So once a
Mm,
royal parent, you are a parent forever, because your daughter, we just are a springboard for these girls to launch into their future and do great things. So parents who bring their daughters here, we believe are parents who are intentional. Like I said, there's the cultural narrative of, oh, the girl is good for the kitchen and the other room, but for a parent to go beyond that and invest in her daughter by bringing her to our school through the various programs we have here, we don't just train them in their studies excellently. In the last JAM exam, we made bold to say that we did excellently well with our girls, two of our girls having about 362, points in JAM, and they always beat that record each year. They always beat their records. So this
mm,
has been thanks to parents, parental involvement, feedback, investment, and basically, so that's part of some of the things we've done. And as a Christian school, dependence on the higher power, particularly the Holy Spirit. We,
mm.
through the changing times, the challenges we face, we've learned to rely on divine guidance. And I believe that Rivers State can pick some lessons on this, particularly on accountability and on feedback, on monitoring. The immediate past speaker also mentioned some issues, taking teacher sensors, teachers, how many are they and all that. All these are lapses in supervision, in monitoring, accountability through the stakeholders within the state. So, yeah, so these are some of the things we're big on, and I
Yes.
believe River State will.
Thank you so much, ma'am Jane. Congratulations on 31 years, and I absolutely love the open feedback system at Ria Girls Academy. Well done. The next question will be going to Dr. Alfred. In your opinion, what do you think are the biggest gaps that the private institutions can help bridge in the areas where public systems and public education fall short?
Hmm, that's a
Dr.
big one.
Alfred. Okay.
That's a,
All right.
well, I think first of all is to look at what's actually what we're trying to achieve. I think the first thing we need to come to terms with is that the private and the public school should be thinking more system. The administrative system of the private schools are extensively different from that of the private school. I mean, from that of the public school. So
Mm,
cooperation should be out of it. The second thing is to understand that no matter what we're doing, within the system, we must be able to tell ourselves that what we want to do is to complement and not we're not trying to outdo.
mm,
Because when education becomes that kind of a competitive and very strong kind of a mentality that people carry, that becomes a major problem. Why? And then either we're trying to find each other's weaknesses, or we're trying to magnify some other people's over magnify some other people's strength. So in terms of gaps, one is facility. When you go to most private schools that I work with around the country, great facility. The ambience is welcoming. And you get to a place, something tells you that, look, there are some reasonable people living here, or this is a place for sane people. When you get to most of the public schools, what do you find? It's just chaos. How do you have schools without toilets? How do you have schools without water? These are basic things that nobody needs to be trying to overemphasize. Another thing that I find that is a gap in between is the quality of teaching. There's a difference between quality of teachers and quality of teaching. Because you can have teachers that are they probably went have all the certifications and things like that, but they are very, very poor when it comes to class dynamics. So quality of teaching, it's a way we can engage both within the private and the public. Now, I mean, Dr. Nwogu said a while ago, I mean, how do you rationalize that? In a private school, the teacher probably has just about 25 to 30 people. And then in the public school, the teacher has like 120 people. So what kind of, how will it dispense, or will she dispense what she really wants to pass across to the people? So it's almost like a case of, well, if you like, listen. If you like, don't listen. And the same thing it's not just about, the secondary school, this also extends to the university as well. But I mean, I started my career, on my education in, I think they call it Obafemi University. It used to be University of Ife. I hope I'm right. I think it's Obafemi University now. And my first class, was just chaos. My first semester was chaos. I was completely disoriented. Why? Because I came from a private background to a public background. Now, I just couldn't fit in. The rooms were overcrowded. The facilities were overstretched. And it just messed up my psyche. The first semester, my results were completely very terrible. Not that I'm a terrible student, but I just couldn't learn. Because you go to a class and then you can't even hear what the lecturer is saying. It's not on the microphone and all those kind of things. So that's one major thing that, I think the public schools will need to, shape up. I'm not too sure, maybe like the admission of, is it Amechi or so, that, he went about building a lot of schools and things like that. Well, I passed by a few of them, and, the schools look, sane. The environment looks good. Now, you go around some of them, the roofs are already leaking, all the computers are gone. So that is a major, that kind of thing will likely not happen in a private organization. Why? Not because they are profit oriented, but because of accountability. So you know who to hold, okay, for whatever, you put in a place. Well, in the public schools, I'm not too sure if there's any level of accountability. You heard it over the radio several times that, oh, don't collect any money, for government has paid for the exam of all the students. Well, schools still go and they still collect money. And then you ask, so where's the level of accountability? Where's the level of respect? Where's the orderliness that you can find in this place? It's almost non-existent. So everybody, every month himself, God for all. So now another gap that I find is not just the quality of teaching, but the quality of teachers. Now, how much do the training do teachers get? Because it's about, okay, I might just the end of it. Like in my own kind of, the kind of job I do, I mean, I have to take a competency test. Even though I'm executive vice president, for the entire Africa, I have to take a competency test every 2 years to be sure that my head is still correct, to be sure that I can in that kind of capacity. No, it's just it. So you can't just assume that, like somebody, got qualified, and then they got qualified, for life. It don't happen anywhere. Even in Christianity, I mean, you don't get saved today and then you go sleep and expect that everything is going to go well, all the way that way. So those are like essential key things. The fourth one I'm going to highlight is what's the quality of admission? How do we admit people to the schools? Because it's like a recruitment, and I get involved in recruiting for different organizations. Is it the people, the quality of people you have in the pool of applicants will determine the kind of people you are going to employ in the organization. So if an organization, for example, now, wants, we place an advert, they want someone, to resume in a particular position within 48 hours. Now, what does that do? Most qualified people may not even see the advertisement because it's the issue of time. So what system do we use to admit students? What kind of exams do they take? What kind of interviews do they go through? What kind of screening do we have? And then number 5 will be, what kind of management do we have, okay, in public school versus the private schools? Because in the private schools, now the teachers understand that we're accountable for these students. It's like the parents trusted us with the lives of these students. So we're like their parents in school. Well, do we have the same mindset when it comes to public school? I'm not too sure. It's like, where you come and then you go. The teacher is just supposed to enter class and finish, and off it goes. And then the 6th one I'm going to be talking about is, what's our level of retention? Because when you keep switching, teachers, one person teaches at Bogoro, for one session, then, or 2 sessions, then you move him away, like at Bori, and then he stays in Bori for another 1 session, then you move him away, take him to Asaritoro and all those kind of things. The question then is, you see, learning is about bonding. You see, there has to be that connectivity, between the learners and, of course, the facilitators. No one will call them teachers, but they're facilitators of knowledge. So if there is no bonding, if it's just about, well, I'm just here to do a professional job. If you like, listen. If you like, don't listen. Off they go. There are people that, those who are facilitated in my primary school, my secondary school. I mean, it's a kind of bonding that we have over time, that even outside school, you are responsible to them. And so, there are some things you don't do in the society because you also don't want people like that to hear a bad story about you, because they're part of your level of integration between the school administrators and the parents, of the children. A child doesn't come to school, for example, nobody really cares. He's not in school for one month, nobody really cares. But the day he shows up, oh, what happened? Well, I just wasn't feeling well. I didn't feel like coming to school. And the parents, I mean, Jay just spoke about, about feedback. Now, communications is life in almost everything that we do. So, a student is not in class, who gets in touch with the parents? What kind of information do we have about that student on our file? Do we have phone numbers, who to contact? Do we know where the students live? When they're changing houses, do we know? So when that kind of gap exists, then, it just becomes something like a syllabus-driven kind of environment. And now you have a syllabus-driven kind of environment, no quality learning will really take place. Like in the Nigerian educational system, and I said this without fear of contradiction, that most times, because in my job in recruitment and training, I have people that that made first class in university, but guess what? They cannot transpose the class knowledge to workplace. Because when you come for interview, for example, I'm not interested in the DYDX of electrical engineering. I understand that. But how does the DYDX actually fit into the workplace? That's what I want to know. So if you can't have that applied knowledge, that becomes a problem. So people get first class, okay, based on the fact that they can regurgitate whatever they were taught in class. And that's why most lecturers do that. See the way I'm putting it on the board in case I ask you in the examination. Now, that is a complete insult to the collective intelligence of the students, very dangerous to the academic what the excellence we're trying to build in the future. Those are some of the gaps that I think are crucial for what looking at and see how we can collaborate as well. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it seems like Obakam's in internet has gone off.
Oh, I think those probably froze. Okay, so I mean those are just a few things that I thought I could highlight within the time that we got.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot for saying that. And I think Dr. Ann has put in some important points as well in the chat. She speaks about.
Good evening. Hi, I'm here. And thank you very much to all the speakers.
Yes,
my name is Dr. Ann Briggs Famuyiwa. Thank you so much. Your points are well taken and very well processed. However, I beg to differ on the ideas that the schools are full. The schools are not full. Recently, I was talking to the SACEFA person in Rivers State. SACEFA is the NGO body that covers education in Rivers State, in Nigeria, and they have a branch in Port Harcourt for Rivers State. And we're planning to have communications about the children being in school, but out of school, because there are no teachers. So you're saying, oh, that you should connect with the children. There is nobody in the school. I mean, I was in Oprama yesterday. There's, when we did the needs assessment, Mr. Ebenezer, I think I sent you for a Asarito. When we did the needs assessment, we found 11 children, and that is the only primary school in that community. 11 children. And at 11 o'clock, they go to pick Isam. I told you, and I'm sorry I sound like this. I'm really passionate about this. So, because we told them the read circle was coming yesterday, we had 68 children seated in that school because we said we're bringing freebies. So the fact that the buildings in Port Harcourt, in the major cities, look like it's working, it's not working. It's not working. And for me, there's something the Read Circle is doing. I've been going from school to school to say, please, can you adopt a public school near you? Because those kids are in school, but not learning. There's just nothing happening there. You have, I was talking to a volunteer teacher in Mogo, in Gokana local government, and the guy is talking of SS3 students not being able to spell their name. I walked into one community in rural Rivers, and on that day was Wayek. It was the principal that was calling the answers to the questions. So yes, the ideas are nice, they are good, but there's nothing happen in the next few years. I don't know what's going to happen to Rivers children. Apart from if we're going to say my children and your children that are in the city will be fine. Otherwise, Rivers children are in trouble. Look, we've been to 25 schools and we sampled two schools per LGA, and we did it in conjunction with the Ministry of Education. We told them, nominate schools for us. There are no, it's only in Port Harcourt that you have more than 5 teachers. All the schools we have been to. In fact, I can categorically say that they merged the classes, primary 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together, 5 and 6 together. Then they merged the whole nursery classes. And I don't even want to get started on the secondary because I'm like, okay, if I can catch them young, we can cure learning poverty, then maybe there will be a better outcome in secondary school. There's no learning there. No single one is learning.
Yeah. No, Dr. Anne had shared this points with us earlier, and we actually hosted the conversation about this, the state of emergency in the public education sector. And I think it underscores everything that Dr. Oladapo just spoke about currently. The fact that the fact that kids don't come to school and no one is even checking on all of those things. Who is checking? I mean, Dr. Ikechi mentioned this earlier. Who is measuring uptake rates? How are we retaining students in class? Who is checking all of these things? Nobody, So Dr. Anne is really passionate about this, and she's doing some really good work on this. And I mean, this is part of why we think that the private sector actually has a role to actually play to support the process. Most of what Dr. Jane, Mrs. Jane Yahaya spoke about earlier, talking about feedback mechanisms and the lessons that have been learned over the past three decades. I think those lessons need to be shared a lot more consistently for the public system to sit up. The public system definitely has to sit up. There's so much learning that definitely has to happen. So I see that our time we're at 5. I'll ask just one round of questions and then a final question so that we can wrap up today's conversation. I think the next question will go to Dr. Ikechi. You spoke about Cinfores earlier, and we know Cinfores is a huge success story, not just in Rivers State, it's a huge success story in Nigeria and most of this West African region, right? Because this is a company that has existed for over 20 years and has used technology as a way to push education. I think the question I'll have is, what are some of the what potential do we have as a state and as a region to be able to use technology a lot more to foster education, whether it's technology using our indigenous languages and stuff like that. I know you've done so much with BrainFriend, preparing students for exams and all that. If you could just share, maybe just in a few minutes, about that.
Okay, very quickly, I think I could even point to e-learning, virtual learning during the COVID era. Okay, so we advocated for continuous learning. In Lagos, they had these radio-like devices which they distributed to schools and all that. But in our own cases, the government had to pay for sessions of BrainFriend. So there was continuous learning on TVs, RS TV specifically. And so even though no one was going out, Okay, you tune in to RSTV, and then there was airtime, and mathematics was going on, English was going on, chemistry was going on. There was timetabling covering various days and various classes. So that's what technology can do. We also worked with the NAPS, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, trying to engage them in the same solution. So we had an entire timeshare and time map. So schools could subscribe to the solution. They just would go online, take a link, and then engage their students rather than reinvent the wheel. And so learning was going on in my children's school as well. They still had those interactions because we had the components where teachers could engage, not just the stereotypical provisions, okay, where you go on RS TV and watch. We could have access, one-on-one with the children. So they'll gather around a certain computer, similar to what we're doing now on Zoom. And then there was that teacher to learner exchange. So that is just a little of what technology can do to ensure that even in the rural areas where you don't have sufficient infrastructure, okay, learning can take place. Because what we're talking about now is creating those gaps. So one teacher now can cover an entire spectrum, of learning arrangements, even though you can't provide enough chemistry teachers, you can't provide enough physics teachers. But where there's a proper arrangement, where there's commitment from government, teaching and learning, because Dr. Alfred was talking about, some of these things. A teacher could be a teacher, but is he teaching in the way that he ought to be teaching? Okay, so standardized platforms. Okay, Dr. Ann was highlighting, the wide gap, okay, between the rural schools and even amongst public schools, the rural schools and the city schools. A lot of focus is given to city schools, not much is given to rural schools. So, like I was talking about teacher shortfall previously, okay, you have one teacher teaching biology, chemistry, and physics in the rural schools, okay, because there's no replacement and there's no motivation to come to school. So most of the students look at it like, let's go and pick periwinkles. After all, some of the teachers are even asking them to go pick periwinkles. So there's no proper inspectorate concern. The inspectorate division, what are you doing? What are the highlights? Is it like you're not submitting report to the ministry to exco, government is not doing anything? So all of these things, government is the big brother. They have to sit down and say, this is what we want, and this is how we're doing it. Whether we're going with technology, because the first thing they say when they hear technology is it's expensive. Okay,
Yeah.
oh, how do we provide power, solar energy,
Yeah.
and all of that? It's a whole lot. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but government has to get serious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Government definitely has to get serious, and I think that's part of why we're having this conversation. Dr. Oladapo, did you want to say something? Feels like you were trying to add after Dr. Ann spoke earlier.
Yeah, I
Before
wanted to quickly add that, the case of not finding students in the rural areas, in school, we can't really get, into, I don't want to admonish, let me say it that way, that we shouldn't despair. It is not a River State thing. It is an African thing. It's not a River State thing. So, I mean, you go to some countries, I do some work, across, maybe you go to some of the African countries too, you find out, they're trying to, you go to some schools, there's even nobody there. You go to some part of this country, go to the Southwest, as enlightened as people think they are, go to some of the rural areas, you don't find out, look at it, there's probably very, very few teachers. So I don't think it's, localized so much to rivers. It's good that she brought it out, and I'm glad about that, because I mean that gives us something to really think about and to also be able to provide certain solutions on. But again, I think I also want to admonish that we shouldn't get despondent about it, because it's almost like a global thing. It's almost like a global. Thank you. I wanted
Thank
to
you.
add that.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for giving that perspective. So I'll come to Mrs. Yahaya Jane for the final question to her, and then we'll ask one last question, which is the question we always ask everyone that comes. So Ma, you spoke earlier about the sort of like the lessons that you've learned from the past 3 decades and how the school has been able to build on those lessons. Just like the public sector, is the private sector also facing challenges? My guess is that yes, there must be challenges, right? Because you're in
Of
Nigeria and
course, yes.
and you're building a business in Nigeria. So what are some of the challenges that you face? And how do you also
Oh,
think that these challenges can be solved? Yeah.
okay. Thank you so much. Yes, there are challenges. There is so long as we're on this side of heaven, under the sun, there will always be challenges. And quite a few of our challenges are, yeah, we have the socioeconomic challenges, particularly with the students and their families, you know. Yes, we are with the peculiar case of Nigeria, not wanting to sound like a broken record, the financial issue that almost everyone is going through due to inflation, you know, and then even before the inflation time, before pre-COVID, let's say pre-COVID, we've always wanted to let more girls have access to what we are doing here. But we still have some who are either unable to enroll or continue due to financial limitations of their family. And yes, um, Dr. Famiwa mentioned, you know, students being out of school. If it were possible, I believe that quite a number of private schools will want to adopt these kind of people, but there's still the place of sponsorship. There's a need for sponsorship for indigent students or people to have access to quality education, where we have to support, you know, we are supporting the government, we are not taking over their work. Yeah, so that's one of the challenges we have. And then, like every other private school, I want to believe we have the issue of staff retention. Everyone wants to move higher, either leaving the education sector totally or the Japa syndrome, which really affected us. And then we have those who just leave abruptly without proper notice, leaving us stranded, you know, getting good. There was something that Dr. Alfred mentioned, that learning is about bonding, you know, and that's a big area of challenge for us, you know, because when the students might have bonded with some staff members, either as teachers or in the hostel, because we are a boarding school, these people just, you know, leave suddenly, and then getting that person who may be good and have what it takes to teach well, but just the process of connecting is a challenge for our, you know, girls are quite emotional too. So navigating that particular challenge, and then we have the, yeah, rising operational costs, cost of feeding, fueling, you know, and making sure that the quality and standard doesn't drop. We have the policy inconsistency from the government. Today you're hearing that, oh, we should add this into the curriculum, remove this. Now we are hearing rumorly that maths is no longer compulsory, you know, and there is no clarification from the government. We have, you know, some people, some schools doing one thing, another set of, you know, so basically communication, policy inconsistency, frequent policy shifts, regulatory delay from authorities, they often disrupt our planning and implementation of some policies. So these are some of the challenges, like others, who I want to believe, that we face. And particularly as a school, we make bold to say that we do not engage in examination malpractice. We do not engage in that. And over the years, we find some level of difficulty in working with some government personnel, you know, with helping us to do the right thing. No, the right thing must be done. We believe that we have to do the right thing, it must be fair and just. We do not cut corners. And one of our major challenges is that we do not cut corners. And we've been from time to time victims of some unjust treatment. When we come, for example, to the Ministry of Education, we find that before we get attended to, you know, because we want to do the right thing, you have to, then you must be willing to stay long enough. So these are some of the challenges, but thankfully, we would say every member of the ministry is not, is corrupt. We have those who are working with us, and we are working on some of these challenges. I believe that the government will partner with private schools to make things better.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Thanks a lot, and thanks for insisting on doing the right thing, even in the face of all of the challenges that you faced. Okay, so I mean, we've been here for one hour plus, so this is just the final question now. Like, it's a question that we ask to everyone that comes on the Rivers 2050 platform, because we believe that, and I think Dr. Alfred mentioned this earlier, which was also buttressed by Dr. Ikechi, about like how visioning is very powerful, how it's important to be able to our collective vision as a state will come from our individual visions as individuals. So the question is, what is the river state of your dreams? Right? Where do you envision the state to be over the next 25 years? Where do you want to see River State over the next 25 years? I'll start with Dr. Oladapo, and then we'll go to Dr. Nwogu and then Mrs. Yahaya. Yeah, Dr. Alfred, can you hear me? Seems like we lost you. Okay, so Ikechi, do you want to go first? And then when Dr. Alfred
Okay, so yeah, so I no longer desire the River State that will play catch up. The River State of my dreams will not be a tag along River State, but a frontliner in policy, communication, a frontliner in technology advancement, a frontliner in results that would birth that needed homecoming, a proper collaboration between town and gown, a proper handshake. Even schools abroad would come for exchange programs, because the River State schools will become such a huge resource base where learning will inspire further learning and research, and the world wants to come learn from us. So we want to research based on common identities within our environment, okay, and then we lead the world in view of areas that are peculiar to us. We shouldn't always read about River State on the internet. We shouldn't learn about. So very very quickly, I was to do my doctorate, right? And I visited a school called Heriot Watt in Edinburgh, and this was my topic, and my research was driven around Nigeria. Okay, I was frontlining the Cinfores package, and a thought came, hey, why should I be studying about Nigeria and Cinfores in the United Kingdom? And so I quickly came back home to the University of Port Harcourt, and then I could very easily advance whatever it was I wanted to, because it was homegrown, it was homebred, it was home inspired, it was home everything. And that's what works, because they had the grounds. They had provided the Uniport Business School. They had provided the grounds. I wanted liberty. I wanted freedom. I didn't want encumbrances. Oh, sorting here, handout there. I wanted that space that gave me the international ambience to do what I wanted to do. And that's River State. That's the River State of my dreams, learning in that kind of environment, okay, where you can inspire yourself and dream for a better future and see the results you want. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so very well put. Mrs. Yahaya, do you want to tell us? You can see that we lost Dr. Alfred.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. River State of my dream, of our dream, is a state where the educational institutions, both in the public space and in the private space, there is a passion to do things right, fair, and just, where the staff are diligent and committed to work, and students show interest in their academic work, character, and development, and their character development and etiquette, because they are being inspired to. Everyone is living that as a model. There is discipline that is being enforced and rules are being obeyed, where there is zero tolerance for examination malpractice in both internal and external examinations. So these are some of the things we desire to see in River State. When all these are put in place, I believe that will be a role model to not just states in Nigeria, but beyond the shores of this country. Like Dr. Wogu rightly said, we'll have such opportunities or such a time where we could even have exchange programs because of the quality of the kind of students who can defend their results, who can stand for themselves wherever with their counterparts anywhere in the world. That's the River State of my dreams, our dreams.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very well put. I don't know if you heard the question, Dr. Oladapo, before you moved on, but we're asking, the final question is the River State of your dreams. Where would you like to see River State, over the next 25 years?
That's a big question. Well, I mean, it's a great question. I just want to see a River State where neither finances nor government policies nor the environment will be a hindrance to whatever any child can ever be in their life. That's the biggest satisfaction I'm going to have about River State, because this state has a lot of potentials, has a lot of resources, in fact, humongous resources. I just look forward that, those will be channeled, properly in such a manner that then we begin to see the future of our children solidly more important than the life we live. Because sometimes I think most of the education, what they call it, of today, we're preparing children for our past. We're not preparing them for their own future. And that becomes very dangerous. I look forward to a River State where, a student will be able to, a child will be able to determine, okay, I want to be an artist. And it's going to have the environment and the ambience that makes that completely very, very, seamlessly possible for him or her. Look forward to a River State where parents will understand that these children have a right to decide who they want to be. And government has a responsibility to ensure that they fulfill those dreams. If you ask the average Nigerian today, what is the Nigerian dream? They don't know. What is the River State dream? They don't know. But ask the average American, what's the American dream? They're not going to blink an eye. They're going to recite it for you. So this is something that has to drill down to the level whereby every child from nursery to primary to secondary to university understand what is the River State dream. Once we can achieve that, I think we're already gotten 60% of the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Oladapo, and thanks to all our speakers. We really appreciate your time. We don't take this for granted. Your wisdom, the expertise that you've shared. We've also had Madam Christy Jumbo. She's been on the call all through all the way from the beginning. She's the proprietress of Royal Girls Academy. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being part of the conversation. And thanks to everyone that's contributed. I see that there's some comments down there in the chat as well. I'll pass this on to our senator to just give us quick bullet point summary of today's conversation, and then we'll wrap up the conversation. Yeah, over to you, senator. You're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
All right, thank you, Eben, and a very big thank you to Dr. Alfred, Dr. Ikechi, Dr. Ann, and Mrs. Dream for all of your thought-provoking insights today. I noted several key takeaways from the discussion of today. However, to save time, I'll just go through some of the key ones. First, as it is, the future looks bleak in the area of education in Rivers State. The term state of emergency was used. And if immediate and deliberate action is not taken, we will be in trouble as a state some years down the road. The vision for education we're working on, it must be unequivocally clear. And this vision needs to be broken down into chunks that can be assessed to know how far we have come and to know how well it's being run with. If we're meeting the stones we've set for ourselves. Standardization of processes in education. Apart, each educational arm should be something that complements the other, not competing. Standardization of processes across the board, proper teacher assessment, accountability, especially in the government sector, so that when we put things up, someone is responsible for it, and we can hold people accountable if things do not work as they were planned for. Taking advantage of ICT tools to plug as many gaps as can be plugged, especially the virtual learning platforms Ikechi talked about. And lastly, leadership cannot be microwaved. There should be a curriculum for leadership training in all schools that develops competent leaders, because it's when we have competent leaders, things go forward. It has a compounding effect as time goes on. So this is it for now. A very big thank you once again to all the speakers this evening. We're very grateful for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We wish you the best part of your weekend. Next Saturday, we'll be back. Stay tuned on our social media. We'll share information about the guests we'll be having and the conversation as well. On our website, rivers2050.org, is tracking the project and all that we've been doing so far, the various people we've been speaking to and what we've been learning. So you can also find out more information there as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and have a great weekend. All right, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.